iron in their soul. What's up, YouTube? This is Iron in the Soul. Back today with another very important message. Please subscribe to my channel. Like this video, share this video, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about my content. In addition to that, please feel free to follow me over on Instagram at TheKingJabez. It will be greatly appreciated. Let's do some work, men. In today's video, we're talking about native abilities, which is a leadership development that is an important part of your growth and development as a man, and really understanding what you are naturally good at. A native ability is essentially something that you are good at. This comes natural to you, and it's something that others may find extremely difficult. So you have to just look at your life, look at your childhood as a teenager, as a man. What have you always been good at naturally? And how can you develop that and to use that to, of course, add value to yourself and to add value to your family, your community, and of course, eventually add that financial gain to your, life. And so I think this is something you need to really reflect on. And if you figure out what that is and how to use that, then it becomes your responsibility to develop that and to get better and better at it each day. Because when we talk about leadership, we're basically talking about your strengths, your skills, decision-making ability, your ability to be decisive, and just overall your influence, your ability to influence other people. And that's a big part of maturity, is understanding how your presence, your words, your disposition affects other people. We've talked about this before, some of my previous videos, in terms of the power of communication and how basically your communication is seen or received as 93% is based on your body language, your voice tone, and your demeanor. The other 7% are the actual words you use. So what am I trying to say? When you talk to other people, they're receiving what you're saying. 93% of that is based on your energy, right? Your body language. Are you standing up? Can you make eye contact? Is your voice tone pleasant, or does it communicate I got an attitude? I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to deal with you. People are not stupid. People have a very good subconscious or intuitiveness about themselves. In fact, right now, in my own personal read, I'm reading through Think and Grow Rich. I'm on page 289. He's talking about the subconscious mind. So people will subconsciously pick up on your energy. And so your leadership is really your ability to influence other people. It is, I think I heard it once in leadership class. It's your intentional influence. You're intentionally trying to influence people to do a thing, to learn something, to go in a certain direction. And your ability to do that can really have a profound impact on your success as a man. Think about men and women who we respect for their influence, wealth, and talent and ability. They have essentially used their native abilities. Think about someone like Prince, for example. Prince was a musical genius. Whether you like his music or not, or appreciate his style, if you know anything about being an artist, you had to respect his talent and ability. He was a man who basically did it all. He played over 27 instruments, singing, dancing, helping write movie scripts and whatnot. I guess you can say he was able to create an image for himself that was distinct from anyone at that time in the 80s. And so, here was an individual who clearly understood his native abilities, and he used it to really transform the music world. And we can fast forward now to 2023, and we still can see, those of you who have a trained eye, the musical influence that Prince has had over the industry. You can see that even from a R&B perspective, rap, all across the board. His influence and ability to really add something new to that world. Think of someone like LeBron James and his ability with basketball, from being a little boy to a teenager to literally being deemed the chosen one at 17, 18 years of age for the game of basketball. And here he is now 20 years later, still dropping 50-point games and very close now to being the all-time scorer in NBA history. And in fact, I was just researching recently. I think some of the Lakers tickets are going for like $92,000 for people to be there the night that he actually does pass Kareem and becomes the all-time greatest scorer of all time. So why do I bring him up? Here's an individual who clearly and it's a good example of this, right, by the way. LeBron understood his native abilities, but he did what he's supposed to do, and that is he has also cultivated those abilities. So it's one thing to understand your abilities, but something else to actually cultivate it and develop that and to get better. That is something that the greats in basketball and football and sports in general have done. LeBron came back better every year. Michael Jordan, his opponents, opposition said this man came back better every year. Tom Brady just kept getting better and better and better. And so many others right now, sports greats I can't name, that understood their navigability and were very intentional about adding layers to that each year by desire, determination, dedication, and hard work. You could talk about businessmen like Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, and so many others who just had a native ability for finance, business, organizational development. Some guys just have a mind for that, and they're able to, of course, once again, discern that first. But you can look at all their lives and see that they were intentional about increasing their value. And so Warren Buffett read all the time, of course, probably sure he still does. Steve Jobs was very intentional about working hard, long days each day, rising each morning. I think 7 a.m. I believe I read one day, something like that before the kids got up, and going to bed about 10, 11 o'clock at night after spending some time in meditation, which is reflecting and getting ready for the next day. I think that's something they teach in the military too, is to, there's some basic military principles. One of them is making your bed first thing in the morning, so you accomplish something first. Early morning exercise as well. And I think another one was something to do with writing your task list for the next day, the day before. And I do that not every night, but I do that pretty consistently, because that's a good way of kind of just, your mind is run. I know about you, but like for me, for example, at the end of the day, my mind is running after, handling different responsibilities and tasks, as a husband, as a father, or employee, entrepreneur, businessman, and different things that I do. My mind is always running. And so I have to create task lists. Otherwise I'll go crazy. So I've kind of always done that, not even knowing this is the military teaches, but I've always kind of just been an organized person, which is why I keep journals and I reflect and think about the decisions I make. So if you're trying to figure out what are your native abilities, there are a number of questions you got to ask yourself to figure that out. That could be very helpful. So if you sit back and reflect one day, maybe spend about 15 minutes to half an hour, ask yourself, honestly, what do you love to do? Okay. What makes you happy? And if you could do anything else right now, besides what you're doing, then that's a sign you haven't found your native ability yet. When you found your native ability, you can't really picture doing anything else. And so this is much deeper than your 9 to 5. Your 9 to 5 is like a financial band-aid that helps you keep it together. It's an old saying, God will help you keep it together till you get it together. So sometimes your job or two jobs are there to help you keep it together until you get it together. What do I mean by that? Good example of that is a YouTube influencer through fitness and business, successful man, Brandon Carter. Brandon Carter, he had a reel I saw online, which is very powerful, how for 2 years he worked like 4 or 5 jobs. He was working at, I think he said, doing security, moving company. He was doing fitness training early in the morning. He was helping a buddy of his who had a restaurant. And so what was he doing? He was basically using all those 9 to 5s to keep it together until he got together. He understood clearly that those jobs were not his native ability. Those jobs were just there to help sustain him until he figured out how to make some real money. You follow me? So he's a good example of this principle. Here's a guy who found his native ability. He has a insight into the fitness world, right? There are thousands of people who go to the gym, who have fitness accounts online, people who are personal trainers, fitness gurus. But he has figured out through much study, I've watched some of his content. I got a few fitness influencers I watch because I stay in the gym as well. I believe in that. Iron and soul, spirit, soul, and body. Pause. You messed up. Your 9 to 5 is like a financial band-aid that helps you keep it together. It's an old saying, God will help you keep it together till you get it together. So sometimes your job or two jobs are there to help you keep it together until you get it together. What do I mean by that? Good example of that is a YouTube influencer through fitness and business, successful man, Brandon Carter. Brandon Carter, he had a reel I saw online, which is very powerful, how for 2 years he worked like 4 or 5 jobs. He was working at, I think he said, doing security, moving company. He was doing fitness training early in the morning. He was helping a buddy of his who had a restaurant. And so what was he doing? He was basically using all those 9 to 5s to keep it together until he got together. He understood clearly that those jobs were not his native ability. Those jobs were just there to help sustain him until he figured out how to make some real money. You follow me? So he's a good example of this principle. Here's a guy who found his native ability. He has a insight into the fitness world, right? There are thousands of people who go to the gym, who have fitness accounts online, people who are personal trainers, fitness gurus. And I'm all about being holistic, spirit, soul, and body. So here's a guy who figured out that fitness world and how to make some money and how to leverage that. Why? He understood his native abilities and he was able to cultivate those abilities and also delegate those abilities to other people. Every time I see a YouTube video, there's Brendan Carter in that ad. So I see this man's face just about every day with the commercial when he's trying to promote and to market his online fitness training, right? How to train other people on how to do online fitness. And so here's a person who has clearly understood his abilities. He has cultivated those abilities through his own personal study and research. And now he's delegating and showing others what he has learned. That is a true example of leadership. I'm not a hater. I'm going to give the respect. So respect to Brendan Carter for that, for using those abilities, developing those abilities, and now taking the next step, which is delegation. And that is a big part of leadership. Leaders don't do everything. Leaders understand how to delegate, and to give responsibilities to other people. This was something that the man of God Moses learned years ago. He was over the entire nation of Israel. People were literally coming to Moses for answers from sunup to sundown. He was literally spending all day advising people, doing consultations. By the way, I do consultations. Put that out there. I've been talking to guys all week. So tap in. Pretty soon I'm going to add a 15-minute option as well, because some of you guys sometimes just have a short question you want me to answer for you. So I'll be adding that link. Look for the link that'll be coming out very soon for those who want to have just a short, brief conversation to answer a solid question. So with that, Moses was tired from all the work. And so his father-in-law gave him the wisdom to really give other leaders promotions, to help them lead. So he picked out 70 elders, which were there to help him in his work. And so leadership is not just doing everything. A good leader understands what's important for him to do and what is a task and responsibility I can have someone else do. And so leadership is being intentional, but it's also about delegating and giving responsibility and adding value to the lives of other people. Talk about this. Let me add some more teeth to this. How do you really put some skin in the game? So let's talk about this. Number one, you have to become an expert in your native ability. You say, what do you mean by that? I can say today I am an expert in theology, right? Think about spending 10,000 hours on a particular subject matter. So I did the math over the course of like 10 years. That would be 2-3 hours a day, right? So I've done that with the area of theology. I studied pastoral theology, master's theology, a doctorate like 2-3 years ago. So that was like 10 years of concentrated study, not including what I have done over the last, 4 or 5 years since then. And so I have made myself an expert in the area of theology and Christianity, right? And so that is an example of me seeing an ability, having a natural desire, and adding to the ability by concentrated study. So what am I trying to say? If you want to be an expert in something, you have to log hours, right? Dedicate the next 5 to 10 years to study, practice, application, and whatever it is you want to do. So, that will make you a credible source of this native ability you have. Outside of that, it's just talk. Until you add some skin in the game and actually do the work and actually put in the dedication that's required to be respected for this task, then people will take you serious. And secondly, you got to use it. You guys are smart. You've heard the old saying, use it or lose it. That is so true. If you have a talented ability, if you don't cultivate that, I'm repeating myself because I want to put this into your spirit, because some of you guys, you need to hear this talk. You're burying your talents. You have an ability, you have a talent, and you're not using that for a lot of reasons. Okay, that would be another probably 20-minute talk. But briefly, just speaking from the hip, you're distracted, right? You have to be focused to use native abilities. If you're diving off into 10 different directions, you're not really getting good at anything. So I'm all for multitasking. You gotta be careful with this. There are times you gotta do multiple things to survive, and I understand that. But even with all of that, you have to be very intentional about spending time each day cultivating and developing what your natural abilities are so that you can add value to your life. We talked about this already. We talked about this, but I'll say it again. Get great at it. You don't want to be good. Keep learning more. Again, I look at my life in theology. When I got the undergraduate, I saw the need to get more education. I didn't stop there. I went for 2 more years, then went for 2 more years, and I'm still reading and learning. I got books right here, right now, by my office. And so I'm always trying to figure out how to get better at something. In fact, right now on my desk right here, I have 4 or 5 pages on public speaking, right? I've been doing public speaking for right now, formally, like 14, 15 years. And I'm still learning. And so I'm saying that to teach, I lead by example. What I'm telling you guys is what I'm doing. I have an ability. You guys know that speaking ability. That's a gift God gave me. Speak to people's lives, leadership, encouraging, being that spiritual general. And so with that ability, I have the responsibility to cultivate that and to use it. So I'm using my life as an example of what I do. You have to figure out what you want to do. And when you figure that out, you have to learn more and you have to use it or you will lose it. So lastly, how are you going to dedicate time to this? I'm going to close this talk with a solid challenge. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. Are you willing to stay up late to study each night to do this? Right? Are you willing to get up early? So there has to be sacrifice somewhere, because if you're working, you're either going to have to work up early in the morning before work or late at night after work. You're going to have to find a 2-3 hour gap in your day somewhere. So are you willing to rise early or stay up late to do this? Are you willing to spend those hours we talked about, clocking in at 10,000 over the course of 5, 10, or even 15 years? Are you willing to do that? Okay. What topics are you willing to have endless books about in your library? Right? That is a sign of your gift. Again, using Brandon Carter as an example. Brandon Carter has a library full of fitness books. I saw one of his videos where he was doing a live, and he had a library full of fitness stuff. Me personally, I couldn't read that much about fitness because I'm not that passionate about it. But I do have a library, as you guys would imagine, full of theology books. I've read hundreds of theology books. Why? It's a passion of mine. I'm an expert matter in that topic. So I can look at Brandon Carter's life, I can look at my life, and other men, if it's something that they were passionate about, it was easy for them to study it and to become obsessive about it. Think about Kobe Bryant. Kobe became obsessive about the game of basketball to the point where he was willing to wake up every day, right, 4 or 5 a.m., and train 3-4 hours before people can get up. That's what you call a native ability. So he didn't just say, okay, I'm a good basketball player, I'm Kobe. No. Kobe said, I'm gonna get up early and I'm gonna stay ahead of the game every year. And so I hope, guys, this word serves as a word of encouragement, as a word of motivation. For some of you guys, I hope this challenges you to get on the game, get on the ball. And for some of you other guys who are already doing what you need to do, I hope this will encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. So the guys who hear this talk, some of you need to keep doing what you're doing. And then there's some of you who are not quite getting there yet. And so I hope this will serve either as a challenge or as a motivation to continue. This is your big brother, Iron and Soul. Thanks for listening to my content. God bless. Peace.